So today, I'm going to share with you the secret to success for freight broker startups. And it's probably not what you think. The why is probably more important than the secret itself. Okay. So the secret to success as a freight broker startup is to focus on solving one problem at a time. One problem at a time. I was reminded of this recently while I was watching the movie The Martian. Okay. The movie The Martian, where they go to Mars and Mark Watney, the astronaut, gets left for dead on the planet. And they have to solve a whole series of problems to rescue him, right? And so that's what it reminded me of this training, because this is really important. Because as a freight broker startup, or even in someone who's past startup, every phase of your business is going to present new problems, new challenges, new obstacles. And the key is to focus on one at a time. So for example, as a startup, you're going to run into some issues. Your first problems maybe is understanding some of the freight broker lingo, like what's a dry van and what's detention and what's line haul and what's fuel surcharge and what are all these things, right? So understanding the lingo might be one of your early challenges. Then, you might have a challenge identifying what niche you're going to pursue. Are you going to do flatbeds? You're going to do vans? You're going to do cross-border? You're going to do import-export? You're going to focus in produce or steel? There's sometimes, a little bit of an issue or a challenge there, identifying your niche. Then another challenge you might run into is finding a list of shippers, right? Putting a list of prospects together that you're going to contact in order to solicit them to become customers. And then of course there's the prospecting process, the outreach, whether you're using email or phone or social media or whatever it is, there's that prospecting component that can always be a challenge. And then of course there's overcoming objections. People are going to everybody you talk to on the phone isn't going to just say yes, right? So you need to learn how to overcome objections. And then there's finding carriers, and there's rating and providing freight quotes, and there's paying carriers. There's a whole series of challenges and issues and problems that you will run into as a freight broker startup. Here's the great news. The great news is every one of those is solvable. And every one of them is solvable much easier, much faster, and with a lot less stress if you have a program like my Freight Broker Bootcamp online training program, right? That training program includes the answers to all of those questions, all of those challenges, and all of those problems. In addition to the online training, you get an entire community of students, that over 10,000 students have taken this course. You get a community of all these students, other freight broker startups, freight agent startups. And not only that, we have people in that community that are doing over $1 million a month that are all contributing and helping others in that community. So if you're curious about becoming a freight broker, freight agent, you can check that out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Again, we offer a 60-day, 100% money back guarantee, unconditional. Okay. So all of which, again, those challenges are covered in the Freight Broker Bootcamp. But more importantly, I want to get back to the point. The point is, the key and the secret is to focus on one problem at a time. Now, I was watching The Martian recently, and this is when it came to me, right? You can't fix everything at once. So in the movie The Martian, right, they're trying to rescue Mark Watney, who is an astronaut that was stranded on Mars and left for dead. And throughout that, rescue, they run into a whole series of problems. He runs into issues on Mars. They're running into problems trying to rescue him. But there's this one scene where the commander is talking to the crew as they're going back to try to save him. And he's talking about this issue, this altitude and, this time to intercept problem that they're having, right? And the commander says something really important. She says,
"Come on, guys, keep it together, work the problem."
Just work the problem, people. So they all put their heads together collectively, and they figure out a way that if they use their burners and their thrusters, that they can overcome the time to intercept problem, right? So she says something really awesome. She says,
"Do it."
Hang on, it brings the range to 0, but the intercept velocity will be 42 meters per second, and that's way too fast.
Then we'll have 39 minutes to figure out how to slow down.
"Do it." Then we'll have 39 minutes to figure out how to slow down. So she already knew there was another problem, but rather than trying to solve every problem at once, She solved the first problem, and then they focused on the next problem, right? So the next problem was obviously slowing down. So ultimately, they figured out how to slow down. And the way they did that was to create a homemade bomb, right? They had a chemist as one of the astronauts create a homemade bomb and blow out the vehicular airlock, right? That would create negative thrust and slow down the ship. So they did that, right? So now all of a sudden, they've fixed the first problem. Now they fixed the next problem. And now it's not all smooth sailing from here, right? Because the commander is tethered out and goes out into space to try to grab and collect Mark Watney, right? As his vessel's passing by. And so all of a sudden she realizes she's at the end of her tether and they're not even close. And the rescue is going to be a complete failure. So what happens? Mark Watney realizes and sees the problem. And rather than panicking, what he does is he takes action. He pokes a hole in his glove, right? I don't know how realistic this is, but he pokes a hole in his glove, his space glove, and he uses the thrust from that hole, right? From what's coming out of that hole to fly like Iron Man throughout space, because that's his famous line. He wanted to be Iron Man. And he's able to use that to thrust himself into the commander's arms and eventually become rescued. Now, obviously, this is a very dramatic scene. I don't know if you've seen The Martian, but it's a great movie. It's one of those movies that I literally will watch every single time that it's on, okay? And so the point is, what I want you to take away from this, right? The takeaway from this training is this. Number one, you are going to run into challenges, problems, obstacles, and issues as an entrepreneur. It's a fact, okay? So embrace that fact, all right? That's from startup to whether you're all the way up through the different phases of doing 50 or maybe even $100 million a year in sales, right? The problems will change and they'll look slightly different, but you're going to run into problems. Okay. But the key is don't let yourself get overwhelmed. Don't try to focus on everything at once, right? The key is to focus on solving one problem and then the next problem and then the next problem and then the next problem. And for Mark Watney, it was ultimately what ended up saving him. But for you as a business owner, it will ultimately be the difference between you saving yourself and having and growing a successful business. So what I want you to understand, the good news is that Freight Broker Bootcamp, my online course, not only has the training, right, that help you through these issues, it also has the online support. Plus it has an entire community, again, of startups and other successful freight brokers and freight agents. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. That's the secret to success, not only as a freight broker, but as any entrepreneur in any industry. Focus on solving one problem at a time. Don't get overwhelmed. Solve one problem, then the next problem, then the next problem. The next thing you know, you've developed momentum. Your revenue's going up, your profit's going up, and you're seeing huge growth. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, make sure you like, comment, and share. If this is on YouTube, you better be subscribed and hit the bell so that you get notified every single time that I put out a new video, whether that be a live or another training. Truly appreciate you guys being here. If you're curious about becoming a freight broker or a freight agent, you've been sitting on the fence and you've been debating and you've been trying to hobble together some information from Google and from Bing and from YouTube and from TikTok and from Instagram, and you're trying to learn and hobble all this together and you don't have all the answers and you feel a little bit scared and nervous, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Okay. You can get started as a gold 1-year membership with full support, 24-hour, 365 access for a one-time payment of $185. Plus, we offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money-back guarantee. I can't make it any easier than that. If you're not happy with the training, just send us an email in the first 60 days and we'll refund your money. Okay. Plus you get access to all those bonuses. And if you decide to become a platinum member, then you get lifetime access, lifetime support. So check it out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Appreciate you guys being here. I hope you guys enjoyed the training. Have an awesome day and we'll talk soon.